What is up, guys? Welcome to another episode of Build with the CEO. I am finding some really fun stuff on Riverside, so might have a little some tunage throughout.
Powered by Riverside.
Welcome, everyone. My name is Trevor. I'm the CEO of Coach Catalyst, and I am here every Tuesday around noonish on the dot today. And today is a new month. Okay, today is a new month. If you've been following along, or if you've been learning about any of the stuff that we're doing at Coach Catalyst, every month we have a different theme. This last month we went a little long with attention and attraction. And now this month we're kicking off a new theme for the month of September. And that theme is, drum roll please, it is client experience. So the whole month of September, we're going to be talking about the client experience, the experience you deliver as a coach. And each week, we're going to have a different topic that goes deep into the client experience, starting from the beginning. So today, I'm going to dive into a topic that we spent an entire month talking about, actually the month of May. So if you go back in our Facebook group, you're going to see 4 or 5 episodes that we did on this topic. We went a little bit more in depth. Today, I'm going to talk about the highlights here, the highlights of this topic. And we'll see. Maybe we go a little bit deeper, but the topic is onboarding. Okay. So the first question you need to ask yourself right now is, do I even have an onboarding process, or what does that look like? Because I would argue that this is one of, if not the most important part of your business. And there's data around this as well, that the better the onboarding experience that someone has, the longer we retain them as clients. So what does that tell us? Right? It tells us that first impressions matter. Okay. What is the first experience like with that client? So today we're going to talk all about that. We're going to talk about onboarding, and we're going to talk about it being an experience, not just like setting people up. So first impressions aren't just really about being nice. They're about reducing friction. They're about building trust, and they're about like really accelerating buy-in. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. And then most coaches are really focused on the programming aspect. You're great at what you do: macros, habits, behavior change, workouts. But at the beginning, the client isn't necessarily obsessing over that stuff. They've signed up, they've raised their hand, they said, help me, right? Or they've given you their credit card. They believe that you can help them, but they're thinking about, do I belong here? Can I actually do this? I've done this a bunch of times before, right? Why is this going to be different? Will this work for me? Right. And so the first 7 days are really going to set up the next 70. Right. And the biggest thing I want you to get out of today is programming should be an experience, not just like a checklist of things to do. And we may or may not have created a little chat GPT, a little GPT that you can use to help improve your onboarding experience, runs you through a bunch of questions. And so if you're listening to this live, feel free to drop it in the chat. Just say GPT in the chat, and I'll drop it in there. And then we'll throw it out this week as well in our emails and those kind of things. So, right. The client's experience is really shaped by the first 7 days. It's not necessarily your program or your knowledge, but it's how they feel supported in these first 7 days. And there's going to be a mixture here of some automations, right? So we understand that we're getting the things that we need done, but there's going to be some human touch here as well. So in order to talk about what I think is a really, really good client onboarding experience, I want to talk a little bit about what a bad client experience is. And some of you may be doing this right now, and this is not a knock on what you're doing. This is just kind of how a lot of people do it, because we haven't really had the I just lost my live, and we're going to start this thing over. So I'm just going to start this thing over because, oh, wait, does our feedback with everything? All right. No, I think we're good. I think our feed is still good. So, all right, I'm seeing the feed. So I think we're still rolling. All right, cool. Sweet. All right. So let's talk about first what a bad experience is like. And we see a lot of coaches doing this. But if you're doing something for onboarding, that's good. You're ahead of the game. But there's ways that we can make it better. So let's talk about like what a bad onboarding or a poor onboarding experience is. Number one is the dump, right? Where I just send you an email and dump everything I need from you in one email. So you are getting the forms to fill out. You're getting like the client success guide. You're getting the expectation. You're getting everything in one email, and I'm asking you to do 15 things. Remember, your clients are busy. This is just a small aspect of their life, right? They're not completely transforming or they're not completely changing their life in order to work with you. And so we need to fit with them. And so the number one thing is like we just give them this dump of stuff, which many times leads to paralysis, right? If I just gave you a bunch of things to do, you would probably get overwhelmed with it really quickly. And then you may just choose to do nothing because it's a little bit easier that way, right? So that's one mistake we see a lot is just the information dump. The other thing I see a lot is what I call the gap. So you take someone's credit card, they decide to pay, it's a down payment or it's the first month or whatever, and then they don't hear from you for a while. Maybe it's a day, maybe it's a couple days, maybe it's a week. I hope it's not, but maybe it's a week, right? And there's this gap of silence. Okay. And that gap of silence breeds all of those feelings that I was talking about earlier. Do I belong here? Can I do this? Was this a scam? Is this person, am I going to be successful this time? Right. I haven't heard from them. And so we want to try and shorten that gap or eliminate that gap. And we'll talk about a little bit on how to do that today. But that's another thing that we see only is um, the gap of silence where we're not getting to that client quickly or getting them started on the path of onboarding. And then the last one is like completely digital or completely app only. Maybe it's an email sequence. And this may seem a little bit counterintuitive, right? Because I'm the CEO of a tech company and I think a lot of things should be digitized, right? But that's ultimately even what we're trying to do at Coach Catalyst is not create an entirely digital experience. The goal of Coach Catalyst is to give you better information as a coach so that you can be a better coach, and a human touch is part of coaching. And so we need to include that. And it can't just be this email sequence or this automation sequence or this journey or program or things like that. There has to be a human touch to it. Right. And I think this is even more important if let's say someone's paying you, maybe they should put $1,000 down or $1,500 down or $500 a month or whatever. Right. That's a significant amount of money. And so I think we should respect that. And technology should help us, but the lack of human touch or no human touch is not the way to go either. So let's start thinking about like what does a 5-star onboarding experience look like? And I think it really needs to start at the beginning. And what I talked about earlier, this gap of silence. I just made that up right now, and so maybe I can think of a better term later. But this gap of silence, right? Someone gives me their credit card, or they purchase my program. What happens next? Okay. So, what is your process there? Everyone should have a process. Every coach should have a process. And if that process just means you go get the email, copy and paste and send over, cool. Like that is a process. But we first need to understand what the process is currently. And is that the best process moving forward? With the goal of making this gap zero. Okay. So the second they give us their credit card, the next thing we want them to do is start getting onboarded. And there was a little tweak we actually made to Coach Catalyst because of this thought, right? Inside of Coach Catalyst, we have this thing called payments. Okay. And inside of payment, you can build out essentially a landing page, a place where a client can put in their credit card inside of Stripe and then get kicked off in an automation, right? Puts them on the correct program. It puts them in the right community, it gives them tags, it adds them to coaches, adds them to resource orders, all these things, right? All of these automations that happen based upon the purchase, right? The purchase is the trigger that then the sequence of events happen. And so for a while, inside of payments, you couldn't start someone on the program until the next day, right? Until the next day, which in my mind was a little bit of an issue because I want them to get started today. If I took someone's credit card today, I want them started on my onboarding today. So we made a little tweak. We allowed you to start it today. You can still start it tomorrow if you want to, or pick any day in the future, but I wanted to start it today, right? Because the other thing that happens too when someone signs up through the payments is they're going to get a link to download your app. Right. That's how it operated before, but their program wouldn't actually start to the next day. But when we were thinking about client experience, I want them when they open the app to have their welcome right then and there. Right. So we take this gap to zero. And now if you're not using Coach Catalyst and you're using something else, right, you have to think about how do I take this gap, this silence gap to zero. So the second they give me their credit card or the second they pay for something, they're getting started in my onboarding. Right. So think about that process, how to bring that gap to zero. And I think if you get that gap as close as you can to zero, you're gonna start ahead of the game. Right. Because what happens when someone purchases something? Right. There's gonna be a couple things that happen. One, there's the potential for buyer's remorse. So I just made a big transaction. Right. And it's not like I'm walking out of the store with this really cool TV that I wanted, right? I just paid $700 and I got this awesome TV and I'm walking out of the store and I'm going to go set it up. Coaching is this kind of like results are in the future, right? You've paid me based upon my promise that I can get you results, right? The second you pay doesn't get you results. That actually starts the work that you have to do to get the results, right? And so we want to eliminate this potential remorse because people in the past have probably tried something and they failed. Most likely, someone coming to you as their coach, you weren't the first coach that they had. They probably had other coaches in the past and they may have failed at things in the past, especially if we're in the weight loss world. Lots of people have tried lots of different things and haven't been successful long term. Why are you going to be any different? Right. But I just paid you a bunch of money. So I believe that you can do it. Right. But I may have a level of remorse, right? Buyer's remorse. And remorse just comes from like, I don't know if I'm going to be successful. And so we can stop that by immediately starting them on the program and building momentum, right? But if we have this gap of silence, we're not going to necessarily have that momentum, right? So we want to start building right from the beginning. We want that momentum so that that client can start seeing success, right? And do I belong here, right? That's another question that we want to answer throughout this onboarding, right? And how we do that is here are some other people that look like you, right? That were in a similar spot to you. And here's the success they've had, right? Someone can see themselves in one of your other clients. That's where we can seed these throughout. We'll talk about a little bit about that structure as we go along here. So, all right. So, what does great onboarding look like? Step one is eliminating that gap of silence, whether it's using Coach Catalyst and using payments inside of Coach Catalyst to automate it, whether you're using something like Zapier, whether it's literally pressing send on that email in that call so that they are ready to start on the onboarding. We want to eliminate that gap. You shouldn't say, hey, I'm going to start your information tomorrow. It is right now. Okay. Eliminate that gap. So that's really step one in the 5-star client experience. Okay. Step two is information and content from you. So I like to stretch onboarding out a little bit. I don't like it to be a 1-day thing. I think minimum 3, sometimes getting upwards of 7 days as far as onboarding goes. It depends on really what your needs are from the client. But if you're going to be working with the client for the next 12 weeks, right, spending 5 of those days, right, less than 10%, right, of the time really making sure that someone has a great first experience, getting rid of any anxiety, getting rid of any worry, ensuring that this client is set, ready to go, right? Will go a long ways in creating a really good client down the road. And if we just drop everything in on day one, right, we're not creating an environment to allow that client to be successful. Right? Much of this is setting up the environment for that client to be successful, which kind of leads me to the next piece is this information dump, right? We talked about that at the beginning, this information dump. I just give you everything from day one and just it's essentially like a checklist to go through all this stuff, right? What if we took that stuff and we broke it out over the course of, excuse me, over the course of, let's say 3, 5, 7 days, and we we like fractured it up into little bite-sized pieces where every day you had 1, maybe 2 tasks that we wanted you to accomplish. How much better would that experience be? How much more do you think you would get out of it if each day you could focus on one thing, right? If part of your coaching is like, we're going to help you fit this into your life rather than having to fit your life into this, wouldn't that make sense to give them something small every day that they can do that helps build momentum? It helps alleviate anxiety, and it helps build belief in that client that they can be successful with your program. Right? If I asked you if you had a client that believed 100% that they would be successful with your program as long as they did the work, and another client that's skeptical of your program, who do you think is going to get better results? Right? Exact same program. Right? The client that believes. Right? Belief is an extremely powerful emotion, and we can use it, right? And we can instill in belief as we go along. So we want this clear sequence that builds on it, but like builds on day by day. And so my one of my main rules is no more than 1 or 2 asks per day, right? If I want them to watch a video, that's an ask. If I want them to fill out an assessment form, that's an ask. If I want them to sign their terms and conditions, that's an ask, right? If I want them to clean out their pantry, that's an ask, right? So anytime we ask them to do something, we require their time, right? That is an ask. No more than 2 per day. Okay. Ideally, 1 big ask per day. So we start to map it out then. What are all the things that I need from my client so that they can have an incredible experience with me? Okay, we just have to start. If you don't have an onboarding yet, just start like writing this stuff down. Do I have terms and conditions that I need from them? Is there a contract that I need them to sign? Is there an assessment that they need to fill out? What do they need to know as far as our coaching process goes in order to have a great experience? Is there technology that they're going to be using? Are we going to have a community where they're going to get involved and be able to engage with others? Messaging. How should the client communicate if they have a message? Do we have are there like certain metrics or data points that we're going to be collecting on clients, right? Like what are all these things that are going to be part of your program that we want to introduce to a client so that when it does come up, it doesn't just feel like it came out of left field, right? We need to teach the client how to be a great client, and then we also need to lay out the expectations they can have for us as a coach, because every client is going to come to this relationship with um, previous experiences with coaches, with other teachers, and they're going to bring some of those experiences here. And if we don't lay out clear expectations on how this experience is going to be, then they may expect us to do something else, or expect us to operate in a certain way because that's how their other coach did it and they really liked it. Right. And they just think that we should be doing that as well. But if we don't know that's how we need to be acting, then we're probably going to drop the ball or create a disconnect, which then can lead to potentially frustration, right, in a process. And so the onboarding is really about laying out these clear expectations, right? So we make this huge list of everything. Then I want you to look at that list and be like, does this actually matter? Right? Is this thing essential to the coaching process? If I didn't have this piece of information, would I still be able to coach this client at the same level? Right? There may be a few things that you can start eliminating where, hey, like that's actually not necessary. Right? I'm just creating busy work, or I thought this would be great. I thought this would give me great information, but it doesn't. Right. So we want to pare it down to the essentials. What are the essentials? Because again, we don't want to overwhelm. You get 1 to 2 asks per day. Right. I'm giving you the box. I'm giving you the framework to work in. And now you can start to build it. Okay. So now we're going to start mapping that stuff out in a clear sequence on what makes sense first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, all those kind of things. Right. And don't be afraid if your onboarding goes out, like let's say a week, not a big deal. Right. Again, if we're in this client relationship for the next 6 months, right, spending a week getting things organized and helping make sure the client has a great experience, not an issue whatsoever. Right. So that's kind of step 1. Step 2 is once we have that outlined, I want you to think video first. Okay. Video first. Just like you watching this video of me talking, right? If we were to meet and you watched a bunch of the Build with the CEO episodes, right? You learned a lot from it. You got a lot out of it and you were implementing some of it. If we were to meet in person, even though I'd never met you in my life, you would feel like you knew me, right? Because you get to see me, you get to see my mannerisms, you get to see my screw ups, you get to see my ums, right? Maybe I talk about my family or other interests or things like that. And so you feel like you know me, right? And so you're going to feel connected to me. Now, in the coaching relationship, me getting to know you as well now completes the circle. But if I had to meet each person individually, right, that would take a lot of time and would probably be unsustainable. But I could have 10,000, a million, unlimited amount of people watching me on a screen, building some connection with me, right? And I could do that at infinite scale that I couldn't do human face to face, belly to belly, as my co founder Kane likes to say. But we can do it with video. So the cool thing about video is it's scalable and it starts to build this thing called connection, which is one of the most important things that we should strive to create in the coaching process, especially if we're in the online world. If we're in the offline world, it happens naturally because we're face to face. We have sessions, 2 sessions a week, right? 52 weeks out of the year. That's over 100 sessions in a year, right? You're probably going to build a relationship with someone over that time frame because of the sheer volume of time that you spent together. Right? Relationships are dependent, especially early on volume. And so we can create some of that volume at scale through video. Right? That's why video is extremely important. Even if you don't feel like you're great on video, you don't like doing video, you need it because the client will start to connect with you. Okay? So day 1 should be a video of you that's like, hey, what's up? It's Trevor here. And I'm super excited for you to be part of our coaching program over the next 7 days, right? We're just setting clear expectations. We're going to roll out the red carpet for you so that you can have an incredible experience with our organization. Each day, I'm going to give you 1, no more than 2 things, little tasks for you to do or little asks for each day. And then at the end of this sequence, we're going to be jumping on a call. And throughout this onboarding, you're going to be providing me with different things that allows us to have a great first call and we can really hit the ground running, right? So we're just laying out that expectation, right, on what they're going to get over the week. They're starting to see you. They see you as a human, and it's video, so it's scalable. Right. And if you have different programs, you can create videos for each program, but it's super, super easy to create video now. Just open up Zoom, hit record, open up Riverside, hit record, right? We have all these editing tools. Like it's super easy to do and it doesn't need to be perfect. For me, I like a video every single day. Okay. What's your asks for that day? Ask it in a video, right? And then we transcribe that video and then we can make it into some text down below if people like to read, right? But tell them what they need to do that day. Just like a client were to come into a gym and you were coaching them, or come into a nutrition session, you were coaching them, you would tell them what they need to do that day. Online is no different, right? And so we can just pre-program that. If we go through our list, we map out our outline, and then we just start to create the content. But video should be our main thing. We should have text down below just so we have a different learning style. If someone does want to read or skim, again, you can just take the transcript, throw it into ChatGPT, have it cleaned up a little bit. Literally, you can have this stuff done in minutes. It doesn't require a team. It doesn't really require spending really any money whatsoever, right? And so we just build out this clear experience. Okay. One kind of tip that I can give you today, and this may be one of the most important pieces for you getting great engagement inside of your program, is they're going to be operating digitally. Clients probably will have an app on their smartphone. If you're using Coach Catalyst, they're going to be using the My Coach app, or if you have a branded app, it's going to be a branded app on their phone. If you've downloaded any apps recently, you know that when you download an app, it goes to, on the iPhone, it doesn't even go onto your home screen. It goes into like your app library or something. Android, it goes way down on the bottom. Okay. So again, we're trying to create an environment that breeds success. So we're setting the client up for success. So one of the most important things that we can do is get them to take that app and bring it to their home screen. So when they open their phone, right, they look at it and it opens, it unlocks their phone, your app is sitting there, or the My Coach app is sitting there, so that they know if they need to get a hold of you, if they have anything to do on that day, the app is right there. When the app is on their home screen, you also get the benefit of you also get the benefit of the dot notifications, right? The badges that sit right on that app, right? If there's a badge on the app, right, it's an indicator that you need to open it up because there's something in there, right? It's one of the reasons text message works so well. Number one is it sits on their home screen right in the bottom bar on the iPhone, right? Your text message lives there. If you have a new text, right, there's a dot on it. And you enjoy text because you enjoy seeing what your friends are doing. So you open it up, right? And you see the message and you respond. So we can work the same way with apps. But when people tell me the apps aren't working, the technology isn't working, I dig a little bit deeper. And I typically find that the technology is not visible, it's not easy, it's buried. We're expecting a new workflow, a new behavior from a client. If we make doing that behavior difficult, it's not going to happen because it is not part of their workflow, right? And so expecting them to remember to go to the app to check it is not going to happen. So how do we make it easy? Take the app, bring it all the way over, get it on the home screen. We should have a lesson, right? Or a day that is all about that, getting the app to the home screen in order to have an incredible experience. So that client has an incredible experience with you as their coach. You will have zero friction on this. They signed up to be part of your coaching program or to hire you as a coach, right? Making it easier for them to engage and communicate with their coach. No friction. You won't have any pushback on it whatsoever. And honestly, at my facilities, we have a 55 plus, 60 plus crowd. No issues with technology. No issues with technology whatsoever. You may need to handhold them a little bit and teach them, but there's no issues whatsoever. Okay. So that is a really important thing. Moving that app to the home screen. I think that's a really important thing that you can do. And then the other thing I want you to think about is during this onboarding week, what's like a win that you can give this client? What's like a little micro win, something where they can pat themselves on the back and say, hey, like I did that. Right. And it might just be executing all of the onboarding stuff. Right. But for you to acknowledge that win, I think is really, really important. So is there something where you can acknowledge, you can engage, right, to help make sure that client understands that there is someone behind the technology? Right. Too many times I see coaches just rely on the automation, right? Rely on the automation to do the work. It's going to do a lot of the heavy lifting, but it can't do the human work. So throughout your onboarding, where are the human touches? Okay. Where are the human touches throughout that onboarding? Right. And we want a mixture, right? We do have the video, we have this automated stuff, but what do you think about halfway through, you just send the client an audio message? Hey, I was just checking in on your onboarding and I saw that you completed the assessment form for me. Thanks so much for doing that. I'm going to go through that today. And so I'll have some great notes for our first call coming up next week. Super excited to work with you. I think this is going to be an awesome experience and you are going to just be an absolute rock star, right? You send it. I can't automate that. Right. I just open up my phone and I send it. So part of your workflow, and when clients are getting onboarded, we do some of the stuff that can't be automated. Right. But how long does that take me? 30 seconds, 20 seconds, right? These are really quick things, but they need to be part of your flow. They can't just be automations. So we want to add in some of that stuff. Okay. Use video, use audio, use text. We can have some automated messages to what we call prompt, right? We can program the prompt, but then we want to have an organic conversation after that. Okay. So if you have any questions throughout this, definitely drop it in the chat. I can see the stuff on YouTube. I can't really see much on Facebook. So I'm sorry for all you Facebook users out there. I'll have to get back to that one afterwards. But if you're on YouTube, if you're in Riverside, definitely drop it in the chat. So just to review here a little bit, because I think we kind of hit a lot of those key points, is number one, what is our process right after the client buys? Okay. How do we fill the gap of silence so that there isn't one and the client is starting on our program as quickly as possible, right? Hopefully the moment their credit card swipes, they're on to that first ask that you have. Okay. And then what are all the things we need to include in the onboarding process for us to coach this person effectively? What is that we need? And really audit that stuff. Audit it, because there may be some stuff that's just been in there forever and it doesn't actually give you any value and it's just busy work for clients. We don't want any busy work. Okay. Every single video back. There we go. Sweet. So, all right, lost my train of thought. Fill the gap of silence start them on the program, get my outline, audit it to make sure that everything is there. Everything there has value and provides value. And then we start to map it out. How long does that need to be? Remember, no more than 1 to 2 asks per day, right? No more than 1 to 2 asks per day. Map that thing out. Video every day on what you need from that client. Okay. Text, then transcribe it. Let's get some text underneath it. And then any other PDFs or things that go. Are there certain aspects of the platform that you may need them to use? Resources, communities, those kind of, let's talk about all of those components. Make sure that they have a great experience, right? What can they expect from you as a coach? What do you expect from your clients? Do you have a weekly check-in that you want them to fill out every week, right? When are you going to get back to them on the information on that check-in, right? Let's lay it all out. Everything laid out so there aren't any questions whatsoever. And remember, this is going to be something that evolves, right? You're going to have your first draft, you're going to get it out there, and then you're going to get questions from clients, and you're going to update your onboarding. You're going to make it better and better and better as we go along. Okay, so you're going to map this thing out. You're going to use some video. You're going to use some text. You're going to add in some communication that's automated, but then you're also going to add in, as part of your workflow, some times to reach out where you can just do some personal reach outs to that client, right? And then remember, we're getting the app onto the home screen. So if you're doing a lot of those things, I think you're going to have an incredible onboarding, and then you just want to continue to evolve it based upon the clients and struggles that, or based upon the questions and the struggles that your clients may have early on in the process. So I hope that makes sense. I hope that gives you some ideas on what a really, really good onboarding process can look like. If you want to go down the rabbit hole on this, we did do an entire month on onboarding. It was the month of May. But if you just went in the Facebook group and you searched onboarding, you're going to see a lot of videos that we did on that. And then we've also created a custom GPT. So you can just type in GPT. And I will send that over. If you missed it when we launched it in May, would love to get that in your hands. It is free. It's going to go in, ask you some questions, and really create some automation to make it easy for you to be able to build your onboarding, or at least give you kind of version 1 of your onboarding. And one more thing, I forgot to mention this throughout, is let's see if throughout that onboarding, we can drip in some success stories, right? If you've worked with some clients and you have some success stories, some testimonials, some proof, we want to drop that in throughout. Hey, I want to introduce you to X. I want to introduce you to Y, right? Introduce these new clients to clients that have had a ton of success. Remember, we're trying to reduce anxiety, and we're trying to build belief. One of the best ways to do that is, hey, here are a bunch of people that look and sound and kind of where you're at right now, and here's where they are now, right? They've got the results that you're looking for. Build those into, and you're gonna have an incredible onboarding, which is going to lead to better clients, longer retention, right, and an overall better experience. So I think that's it. That's all I got. My name is Trevor. I'm the CEO of Coach Catalyst. I'm here every Tuesday, helping you become a better coach, teaching you things that we're learning from all the coaches that we see, and even some of the coaching in my own business and my own facility. So if you do have any questions, make sure to tag me in the comments. I'm here to help, here to serve. So have a great Tuesday or whatever day you're watching this. And we're here every Tuesday, 12 o'clock Central. See you.